What is good, everyone? James Hicks here, Technologist Forum. News is aplenty this week. So I'm going to spend some time hanging out with you. We're going to talk over some things and listen, let's just have a good time hanging out today. All right, let's get into it. All right. Who is in the building already? I see some folks coming in already. Listen, appreciate you, Florence. I see you. Um, all right. Social media folks, digital publishers, content creators, all those folks. TikTok is the question of the day. Again, TikTok is the question of the day. And the question is it going away for those of us here in the United States? Legislation is in conversation. The House is talking, the Senate is talking. Pennsylvania Avenue is saying that they are going to listen to whatever comes across their desk and possibly sign it. So that brings about ramifications, right? For not just those that use the conversation specifically today is about TikTok, but the conversation could also be about just social media platforms in and of itself. One, the question is, does the government even have the ability to limit access to companies? Is that an infringement on various amendments? Is that an infringement on trade? Things of that. We can go down that path if you want to. Let's jump in the comments so we can have that conversation. My statement is, and where I want to have the dialogue is, what do we do as entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, digital creators, things of that nature, when maybe a source of our revenue, a source of our engagement with our community potentially goes away? How do you pivot? How do you bob and weave? How do you adjust to something like that? Now, for me, I've got a shop out there on TikTok. So I've leveraged and I'm leveraging the platform. Now I sell merch off of the shop. Y'all see this technologist hat right here. Y'all better go cop one of these. Uh, so I utilize the platform from a revenue perspective and from an engagement perspective with you, the community. Now, if that was to go away, yeah, I'd be hurt a little bit, but I said this a couple of weeks ago. It may have been even just last week, but I've said this before. Be aware of where you put your resources. Be aware of where you rely on for your revenue. Make sure that you actually are paying a mortgage as opposed to just paying rent. And I say that, and what I mean is we don't own Facebook. We don't own Twitter. We don't own YouTube, LinkedIn. We don't own any of those platforms. You may be an investor in those companies, right? You may be an investor at Microsoft. You may be an investor in who else out there? Meta, all of that. But getting still, you don't control what goes in, what goes out, distribution, and the look and feel to other folks on the platform. We don't control any of that. We can opt in and we can opt out of certain types of advertising. We can do certain things within our particular profile, but we don't have any real say in terms of the content that is delivered on those platforms. And TikTok being one, again, if you're relying on that as a sole piece of your business, and it's even weird for me to say that, but you think about it, I think some people probably are relying on social media platforms as a huge part of their revenue as entrepreneurs. What are you going to do here in a couple of weeks when the United States government may shut down those internet connections? I'm going to let y'all marinate on that right quick. It's on the TVs. It's on CNBC. It's on CNN. Here's an article from CNN actually last Saturday. Wait, is America actually banning TikTok now? Probably. Good to see you, sir. If the bill passes, if this goes through, it's not a oh no, the whole world's on fire kind of thing, and you gotta go lock in your in your fallout shelter. Nothing's going to happen necessarily immediately, right? The plan seems to be within the last couple of days that individual investors, Mr. Wonderful, the Kevin O'Learys of the world, are putting their names in the hat, saying, I got a couple of bucks in the bank. I'd be willing to take the realm and the helm of TikTok from ByteDance. The whole conversation is because ByteDance is a Chinese-based company. And from a national security perspective, I can understand the conversation and I can understand the questions. But we've had the CEO of ByteDance sitting in front of Congress, and in all actuality, the questions that were asked of the man were somewhat embarrassing. So again, we can go either way on that if you want to, but that's the real at the core of the situation. The fact that TikTok is part of ByteDance, which is a Chinese based company. That's where the conversation. That's where all of the observation is happening. So I'm on here more than Law and Order. That's it, brother. Show up consistently, right? That's what I'm trying to do. Appreciate you for being here, Dan. Hey, Dan, hopefully those folks got back in touch with you. If not, hit me up again, man, and I will put another bug in folks' ear to make sure that they get in contact with you. So I want to make sure you're taken care of. But I would like to hear your guys' thoughts on this in terms of, do you think this violates First Amendment rights? Does this cause you to change your perception of how you utilize various platforms, especially social media? Should TikTok actually get locked down, get eliminated from US based internet service providers? Are you going to find ways around that? I'm not going to talk about how you can do it, but a lot of us in the technology world know how to get around that if necessary. And again, is that something even worth doing? Is that just thinking too much? Is that doing too much? But my thing is, I guess what I really wanted to say, what I really wanted to put out there is, you see this is happening. You see this is a huge conversation. It was a huge conversation with past administrations. It's becoming a conversation now. It's going to be a conversation again during this upcoming election cycle. So it's not just me talking about it. It's not just a few articles in TechCrunch and Mashable and Hacker News, things of that nature. It's going to be more and more of an active conversation. So from a consultant, from an entrepreneur, from a creator's perspective, that's the conversation I want to have first. And then we can have the conversation later about just regular citizens. Make sure that you are not 100% reliable or reliant on these social platforms to do your business. Have your own website. Have your own email newsletter. Have your own, I don't know, email newsletter is the thing. Having that email list, that's all these other social platforms can go away. Email is always going to be here. I mean, email is pretty robust. But so if I got Kevin Cox's email address, if Facebook goes down, if LinkedIn goes down, if Microsoft does something crazy, I can still reach out and have a conversation with people within my community about what is going on, how I like to engage and how I like to interact, and I can continue business. Right. So it's a very interesting thing. Very interesting. Let me see what's going on here in the comments here. Shirley P., good to see you, my friend. Appreciate you for being here. Always good to have you in the comments. Dan says he never uses TikTok. That could be a good thing. When I first started using TikTok, I couldn't understand the algorithm. I thought it was just for the young kids, right? I couldn't get it. Listen, I used to do all the dancing and stuff back in my day before all this gray hair, but can't do that anymore. But I've started to, I guess, train my algorithm to be more efficient and be more effective. So I'm actually starting to see some things that are in alignment with what I want to see and what I want to do. So go check it out. Don't get like caught up in the swipe spiral though, right? Don't spend hours on the platform. Just Go out there and check it out for a few minutes. It may actually help. So I'm now pivoting, having a squirrel moment. Dan, this may actually help you to lock in and find another community, another group of folks within your niche to engage with. Right, again, because you could put out some short form content specific to your niche, reach out to them, have some engagement there. It's continuing to elevate just in terms of its capabilities, in case of its reach and effectiveness, as long as it don't get turned off here in the U.S. Go check it out. I'm not trying to tell you to. I'm not turning you on to TikTok or nothing. I'm just saying, just go check it out. It may be something that's worth looking out. Maybe something worth looking at. Come on through. Come on through, Florence. You got the keys to the front door. Come on through. Email is the key. That's it. I saw a couple of other comments that I wanted to get into. Let me see here. I'm just chopping it up. My man, Mr. Cox, out there doing the thing. Appreciate you, sir. Some creators have TikTok as an exclusive income. Makes an interesting business decision moving forward. I have this conversation a lot of time in my what I call inner circle, and at minimum 10 forms of income. If you're going to be in this business, if you're going to put yourself out here and go through all this effort and all this work and all this expense, honestly, of acquiring gear, of acquiring equipment, until you get that first client, until you get that first brand deal, until you get that some of that initial push down the mountain, right, to where you're actually, no one's ever really cruising, but until you actually get that kind of momentum going, it can't just be reels and shorts and stories and short form content. It can't just be when you go live, because a lot of times folks, unfortunately, don't go live on a consistent basis, meaning not just at the same, not just at the consistent time, but with a consistent message, but also, with the consistent marketing that happens pre and post to that as well. So consistency means more than just turning the lights on and pressing record. That's a huge part of it, but doing it every Saturday, 10:30 a.m., publicizing that out there to your marketing efforts and to your email list and to your distribution list and things like that. You're continuing to do that for a regular, recurring basis, not just 1 month, not just 3 months, not just 6 months, maybe a couple of years, right, before you actually start seeing some growth in your retention analytics and things of that nature. So that's a good point right there, Kevin. Don't just rely on one platform to do the thing that you do. My overall impression is that they shouldn't ban it, but there should be GDPR, like restrictions guaranteeing information is only stored in that country's activity. Yeah, GDPR and the EU is really being vocal with a lot of other things, right, on the social media side and the application side and the content delivery perspectives. So we have to be attentive to that, especially when we're moving merchandise and moving equipment, moving products and services back and forth. GDPR is even more stringent, I think, than the Patriot Act sometimes. I deal in enterprise technology, and having to deal with Patriot Act of actually having data move back and forth between data centers. That's a huge bit of contention, huge bit of conversation that you have to pass and you have to be adherent to. But that's a good point that you put right there. Totally get the standpoint and feel very similar. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right. I was stalling, waiting for Florence to join. So maybe, I don't know. I'll just keep going. What do y'all think about these new lower thirds that I got going on? I don't know. They seem a little big. I like the look and feel because I've got these triggered to show the latest bits of information happening from a technology news perspective, but I don't know. May have to do some more tweaking too, just to look and feel of this. But again, when I'm talking, when I'm rambling, when I'm rumbling, I like to have at least some tech news down at the bottom as well. So, Look what we got here. Look what we got here. Hold on. Let's make sure that I don't bring nobody on camera before they're ready, before their time. I would have offered to join, but my kids are going loco. Dude, it's all right. Dan, it's a family show. I'm not gonna say anything that's gonna get us banned or anything. So it's a family show, man. You can bring your kids on here if you want to as well. Um, there's a gentleman drinking her coffee as well. I don't know if she's drinking her focus coffee
And you had to
like
get
I
it
am.
when I took a cup, took
Hey,
a sip.
I waited for that particular moment. I waited particularly for that moment. Florence, how you living
Good
this morning?
morning. Good morning. I'm doing well this morning. How are you doing?
Well, we made it one more time. We made it
One more again.
one
One
more.
more again.
That's
One
that
more
country in
again.
us
We
right there.
made it.
One more again. One more again.
Yeah.
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 Listen, I just wanted to get on, talk about a couple of things. I got a couple of stories, but this is a huge bit of conversation, really, about what's going on with TikTok right now, and especially, and you heard me rambling a little bit earlier. If you're in this business, if you're out here selling your wares, selling your merchandise, your service, your time, energy, and things like that, and you're relying on these digital platforms, this is an interesting. This could be that inflection point, right? And if you only rely on, it doesn't have to just be a TikTok conversation. I'm kind of lumping them all together, social media platforms, because we see what's going on with Facebook too, and Facebook groups, right? We can't live stream in the groups, so I'm live streaming like right now to my page instead of a group. These companies are locking down in terms of access capability. It could either be a legal thing, it could be a legislation thing, it just could be an evolution of the platform. What do you said you don't use TikTok though, right? But talk to me about your
I
use of social platforms.
yeah, you're correct. I do not use TikTok, and shameless to say, but it's true, and I'm not planning on changing it anytime soon. I've literally never looked at TikTok
Okay.
ever. And I'm pretty judicious regarding what I take in any form. I'm very specific about it. Like, I don't just kind of roll around and look for things and wander around and hope something finds me. Um, but the thing that I will say, and I put in the comment that email is essential. And the reason I say that is if we think about just our everyday lives, regardless of what we do, professionally, community service, family, the place that people say to you to get information to them is send me an email. They don't say send me a DM, message me, put it when they want direct communication with you and it's personal to them. The thing that they say and look for is in that email inbox.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's nowhere else. It's literally nowhere else.
I actually like email. I know folks like to get to an inbox zero perspective, and there's always you can get things done. You can do all those methodologies and all that, but I don't mind
And I
email.
do. As you know, I do.
I guess I'll say reason is because I'm pretty uh, focused on how I attack and manage my content and information streams coming in. So
Exactly.
I really there is a conscious methodology in terms of how I cycle through my email. Certain amounts of times throughout the day, I'm not scrolling email all day, waiting for it to refresh. I look at it every periodically through the day, and I tackle it immediately, that kind of thing. So I don't let it get overwhelming and overbearing for me. So uh,
Mhm. So, with respect to all these various platforms, I've created more accounts on more platforms that after that initial, oh, this is new, in my normal everyday routine,
mm,
running life, I'm not in I'm not in that platform, whether it's Pinterest or whatever. I'm not there
wow,
for
Pinterest, you flash
hours and
back on that one.
hours. Right. I'm not there hours and hours every day. And so it's like really most anything else. If you have a specific need and you're looking for something specific and the answer can be found in that location, it makes sense. Now, if you live your life wanting to be entertained the entire time that you're awake, that's a whole different conversation to
Mm,
have. It is like a whole different conversation to have. So, whatever these companies do that own these platforms and whatever happens in legislation and whatnot, at the end of the day, humans want to be directly in touch with other humans. People
good point.
want to connect with another person. And in all of the technologies that have come along, email is still it. Really, truly. Email is it.
It won't go away. It's like the old school
It's
SMS messaging, right?
exactly.
I'll send you an
SMS,
SMS.
yeah, yeah, SMS, and even people are getting a little bit tired of even SMS messages coming across. They're like, "Can we move this someplace else? Because this is really too much for me to take in."
Yeah,
So it goes back to email.
go ahead
I'm
now.
being judicious. I'm being judicious in what I say, James.
That means I got to put you full screen.
No, 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 no. You don't. But in a lot of places in our lives, no matter how many different ways of communicating are presented to us, receiving and giving information, we come back to that same place, email. And I don't want to make this about email, but from the standpoint of really thinking about where is the place that people you want to connect with and communicate with and have a real relationship with outside of the people that you physically are around and touch and
Hmm.
you're in meetings.
Hmm.
That's it. Everything else is sort of, it's ancillary, and you may get a few over here and a few over there, and but ultimately it comes back to that one location. So what's happening with TikTok or Facebook groups or anything, Twitter, anything else, they come and go.
That's true.
They come and go.
They come
They
and go.
rise and they fall. They're in season today, and tomorrow something else is in season.
That's a whole word right there. We could talk about. So, okay, let me do this because you said a couple of things, and I want to be cognizant and attentive to the community. Shouts out to everyone I see you over there on Twitter. Come on through now. You know you can leave comments over there. Uh, so engage with the conversation. We got Florence. We got Equip Institute. I'm gonna go ahead and go by the professional name there. We got Equip
Oh my
Institute in the
goodness.
building. But I also want to bring up what Shirley was saying. She says she watches TikTok for entertainment, but do all sectors of content need TikTok? Wow.
Ooh.
Right.
And good to see you this morning, Miss Shirley. And thank you for coming through and leaving a comment, giving me a little bit of your time that you can't get back. I appreciate it.
Well, she said that. I'm gonna let you answer first. I'm gonna get your thoughts on that because I have probably a very similar response, but I'm gonna let you answer
No,
that.
all forms of content doesn't need a TikTok. Just like all forms of these platforms have their own culture. And depending on how you, me, any of us as an individual consume and retain information, even if it's for entertainment,
Hmm.
one or the other you'll gear toward. It's despite what we may want to believe, we cannot become all things to all people. And all things are not for us as people. That doesn't mean that we don't know about them, we're not aware of them. I stated earlier, I have nothing against TikTok. I've just never been interested. But then again, I'm a Luddite. So I got interested in YouTube when I figured out I could get education on YouTube.
There you go.
I was never interested in YouTube for entertainment.
Yeah. Exact same way for me. Exactly. I like that.
I am interested now re engaging with Twitter because there are people and organizations putting out content that I'm specifically interested in, and where they're putting it is on Twitter. They're not, and I'm only looking for those specific things. I'm not looking for everything that comes out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm on LinkedIn because by profession, there's information that I must put out, there's information I must respond to, and I've started this content creation journey, so that's another thing.
You've
There
been
are
blowing up
people that I'm
LinkedIn too lately.
connect
I saw you. Hold on, I'm gonna put that
uh,
out there. You've been blowing in a good way. You've been blowing up LinkedIn lately. Go ahead now. Yeah,
no.
we on LinkedIn right now, so
So
don't say anything bad about the
I'm not.
platform. Yeah,
I'm no. I'm actually. I don't have anything bad to say about the platform. Um,
I'll
but
say
it
all the bad
resonates
stuff.
with it resonates with me for where I am in my life and the way I function. It may not resonate with someone else who has a completely different uh, life circumstance,
Mm-hmm.
business model, type of thing that they're engaged with. It may not be the place that's best for them. So some of this is being willing to curate what makes sense for you, your business, your life,
Mm, that's a good
right?
point. That's a good point.
I had a I had a discovery call with someone who I know professionally, who have moved on, and they reached out to me. They reached out to me on LinkedIn
Mm-hmm.
because we were already connected for years and years and years, and they changed and they want to go in and do some things differently, and they were looking for some assistance. For that reason, LinkedIn is great for a person like me. They probably would never come find me on YouTube.
Huh.
So that's my long answer to a short question.
No, and that's pretty good. And see, I could go off into a whole different direction, but I wanted to actually bring up a couple of these other topics that I had, and now that you're here, I want to ask you about it. But different personas, even on LinkedIn, right? Because LinkedIn can get noisy as you put more content out there, and you may not want that. Right. If you have that, if you
Mhm.
have your personal profile, everyone by default gets notified. Hey, Florence has put an update out there, or Florence is live now. If you got creator mode turned on, things of that. So to alleviate that and to steer from that, I actually post all of my content creation efforts on my organizational page on Hicks New Media. And if I want the same content to go to my personal profile, then I'll put it there. So you as the community person, you as someone within my circle have to be consciously wanting to know when James is going live, talking about the business of technology or talking about content creation and things of that nature, as opposed to some of the other topics that I talk about. So if it's on LinkedIn, it's not on my personal profile. Content creation type of stuff is over on my org page. Have you split between the two in terms of what you put out yet? And while you answer
I
that,
have I have not. You
okay.
and I had a brief conversation, and I've
I know I kind of put you on the spot right there because I knew we
no,
did.
no,
So
no, no.
I wanted to put
I'm
you out there
deciding
on
how
blast.
I'm deciding how much of a particular person I'm gonna allow people let me see,
Go ahead.
allow
Okay.
people to see in me. But I wanted to write the content that I want to put on that organization page and
Mm,
make sure it's very specific. As you know a bit about my background, and so I am judicious
mm-hmm.
and careful what I post and what I repost, and what I'm really careful about it. I'm not spouting off whatever the first thing that comes on top of mind for me. Don't do that. I'm not in a position where it would go well. So I am working on it, because for me, when I turn it on, I want what it says to represent what I want it to represent.
Got you. Got you. That makes sense. That makes sense. Appreciate that. Mr. Cox, I saw that too. Entertainment can be educational. I love that. It doesn't
It
have to
can,
only be mindless. That's a good point right there. That's a
and
really
it
good point.
can,
Yeah.
and people are very successful. I know someone who has built a gigantic business doing putting together events that are I call it, what do you call it? He combines entertainment and
He did
education
not
in
say
some
he
kind
did
of
not say
word.
edutainment.
Yeah, edutainment or
As long as he
something.
didn't say infotainment, because that's the name
Yeah,
of one of my
but yeah,
websites.
it's
Okay.
no,
Okay.
it's somehow but he does that in every um training.
Mm,
Is a it's a skit, it's a scenario based, and so the people walk away
mm,
entertained. Now, I said I'm a Luddite. For me, a person whose brain is built the way mine is, I go to sleep on that. It
mm,
it bores me, and I don't get anything out of it. But many people do. It doesn't make one right and the other wrong. It just simply makes the way our brains work. My brain work. I'm the kid who wanted the book to be 1,000 pages with no pictures.
mm. I love it. That's too cool.
Whereas I have a really good friend. She got stuck on See Jane Run because she was trying to figure out what colors Jane's shoes were. I didn't even know Jane had shoes on. I was looking at the words. I'd never looked at Jane. Doesn't make one right and the other wrong. Just
Hmm.
means we're made different, and there's room for all of us.
There's room for all of us. There's room for other folks to come in and have a conversation with us as well. That's a great lead in because I got someone sitting in the back room.
Whoop,
I
whoop.
kind of coerced him to come in.
Hey, the
The gen-
Oreos here.
I'm gonna put him on blast. I am gonna put him on blast.
Oh,
For
James
what?
Hicks.
Who?
Hello,
Me,
Dan
me or
Ross.
Dan?
How are you?
Okay.
What I do this time?
You only been here 3 minutes, and not even 3 minutes, right? Okay.
I've been
James,
here
you
like
know I'm
30
not scared.
seconds, and yeah,
Yeah. Come on.
I'm not scared.
Go.
I'm gonna put
I,
him on blast. How are you doing, Dan Ross? How is your health doing?
I'm getting there. Now my wife is sick, and I'm daddy daycare like usual.
You know
Why?
what? You
What am
are
I going on
blessed
blast
that you
for?
can you are blessed that you can be daddy daycare.
That's true.
You are so
That's
blessed
true.
that you can be daddy daycare. That is
I'm aware.
such a huge blessing. So I applaud you uh, for you're not ashamed to say it, and you stand in it proud. So I will applaud you for that because someone will hear that and not hear the blessing that it is.
Oh no, I look. Here's
So
my thing, and I
yeah.
know that you and I haven't had the chance to talk too much, but um my wife's always been the breadwinner of our family, and I was the one that was the primary caretaker for the girls for the majority of their lives, and coupled with the fact that one of my daughters is autistic, I you know I am the one going to the class meetings. I'm the one dropping them off. I'm the one packing their lunches. I know how blessed I am. But I also have to speak on it because you're right. There's not a lot of other guys that are sitting here saying, "Hey, I'm the one that does the laundry, and let's break traditional gender norms." So this is what I do, and who I am, and you'll see Brooklyn running in soon. I will say
Oh, I love her
yesterday
name.
with two N's. Yeah, an
I love
ode
that name.
to.
That's a beautiful name.
Hmm.
Thank you. It's Brooklyn and Haley. I will say, and I think James will get a kick out of this. It was yesterday was the first time I had to light a candle while my daughter was going to the bathroom. Um, it was she got I think she got the virus that was going around, and she was getting the stomach bug. And on one hand, she was really happy
Mm,
after because she was hungry and wanted to eat everything. On the other hand, I was
mm.
really sad because um, that's my child that made me cry. Um,
I told you, y'all, this is a family show. We get, you don't know where we're gonna go. We may pivot. And
We
it's
were
in his
talking
name.
about
The honest accomplice is in his name. It'll just start spewing out of his
honest
mouth.
accomplice. Yeah.
Although I changed that up because like I have to look at YouTube and fix it because I think James, I switched my URL on LinkedIn to
Hmm.
Mental Health Motivated, which is
Hmm.
going to be the name of my new podcast. So, and it's more overarching with what I do. Um, so I'm probably gonna be creating a new YouTube channel because I've only got like 50 followers, so might as well take the opportunity to start fresh and actually build something off of it. I still don't know what you're calling me out about, but if that's the worst that
I'll
you've
tell
got.
you. No, that I will tell you.
All right, what's up? I want to
So
be called
back,
out.
so back in December, you posted on LinkedIn. I think you were coming out of the hospital. That
Yeah.
was, did you post that? And I posted a response because I work in healthcare.
Mhm.
So anytime I hear anything about healthcare, I'm very attuned to it for a whole bunch of reasons.
Okay.
And so I posted a comment to you, and then you posted something else. I responded. There have been a number of times we've been in various chats. And so everyone, I want you to hear this from the perspective not in a negative way, because I genuinely, though I don't know Dan personally, and this is the first time we've ever had an opportunity to speak directly with each other, because I genuinely care about people, which is why I love healthcare. There's no greater thing than to ensure what you do helps someone go home to their family. There's
Mm.
nothing like it. There's nothing like it.
Hmm.
And so Dan's family has one Dan. That's it. They don't get another one. Your family has one you. Don't get another one. So it touched me when I saw it, especially the time of year, and that it had not been the only time this situation had occurred. And I'm put you on blast is just be mindful when people truly are reaching out, whether you know them or not. Not everyone is doing it because I wasn't, because I could care less about this for attention. I was doing it because I care about you as a human.
Can I ask what my response was if I responded?
There was no response. And part
Okay.
of it, I was like, let me finish. Part of it is you've got to get to a place where you're healthy enough to be able to
Mm.
respond with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of responses. That's number one.
Yeah.
That's first and foremost. But subsequent to that, it just recently where we started communicating a little bit. So I'm kind of ribbing you a little bit, but I wanted to use it as an opportunity to say all of us out here in this creator space, be attuned to when our fellow creators are expressing something that's really happening in their life and be sensitive to it because all of us, our family has one of us. We don't
So
get a second.
I want to say thank you because James knows this, but I never shy away from getting called out. You don't do the work I do, especially as a white dude, and not get called out all the time. Here's what I'll say to you. First and foremost, I owe you an apology, because I appreciate every single person that reaches out to me, that sends a comment. I mean, there's a couple that you look at with cross-eyed, but
Mm.
you're not one of them,
You
of
wonder
course.
what were they thinking?
Yeah, exactly. What I could tell you, because I know exactly when you were talking about, that was a very scary time for me. And what I could also tell you, and I want to be very careful how I label this, because some people, and this is a fault of society a bit. Um, Most people know that I have ADHD, and I don't utilize it as an excuse, but I can get distracted. And when I get distracted and I lose sight of something, it's hard for me, unless I'm like physically writing it down, to get back to it. So it's
Mhm.
not an excuse, but it's an apology to you. Um, that being said, feel free to call me out anytime you want. I have no issue with it. Uh,
So I wasn't calling you out to give you I really wanted to use it as an opportunity to just say
oh, I
for
know.
Hmm.
all of us, just I, I show up, James knows me off of YouTube. I show up not because I want anything, but because I genuinely care.
And I gather that from how you show up. I think for me, and I know that James, like, the start of this conversation was completely different. I'll share something.
We just derailed James's
And
show.
Yeah.
you know what? This is, but so I'll interject though. But this is the conversation that the community came through and said that and you guys wanted to have. So this is more important. I'll bring it back in to a technology conversation, but still, this matters. So let's keep going. Let's keep going.
Well, here, uh, You derailed the conversation because, like, I think it just lost sight of what I was, uh, of what I was actually. Where were we with that?
Oh, so now you want
Uh,
me to be quiet? Now you want me to get off the screen? Okay.
no, I
That
don't.
was
I don't
me
want
who
you off the screen.
derailed.
Oh,
I am trying to remember what I was trying to say because I actually had a very, very valid
profound,
point.
probably too.
Point that I was
Yeah.
trying to make,
And
and I
Kevin, you are so on point. It takes a lot of courage. A lot of courage to share who you genuinely are.
Hmm.
Um, it took me courage to say I'm really a weird person. I'm a Luddite. I don't. The way my brother says
oh,
it, she does not have a black card.
You
We
found it.
just she don't have one
Hold on.
because
Did you
she is
find it?
so
I
different.
found it.
Go,
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 you
go.
found it. Go.
Sorry, I found it. So here's the real honest conversation that I don't always get to have with people, and I'm trying to bring it up more because I think it shows some of the psychology behind it. So one of the reasons that you and I probably haven't connected to this point is, and this is a conversation like Katie and I had to have this conversation. Anna and Fulgence and I had this conversation, but it's usually like a one-on-one. And no, don't put me on by myself. Um, that's not needed. But here's the thing about it.
Behave, James Hicks.
Everybody utilizes social in a different way. For me, it's a lot easier for me, and I don't like to use the word authentic. It's a lot easier for me to come on and talk as exactly the person I am when it's an individual setting where I have control over everything. When I'm in an audience, when I'm sitting there at building blocks or with James, as people will see, um, and it's a large group, I automatically go into my defense mechanism, which is humor. So you'll see me ribbing people and things like that. And there's two reasons for that. One is, even though it's a non-social social setting, uh, it triggers for me because my entire life it's like, well, I don't expect to fit in. So if I use humor, then maybe people find me funny, and then that becomes a pattern and repetitive within it. The danger of that in the very what happens is it doesn't allow people to see you for you, and that's a discomfort on my end on feeling like I'll be accepted for being myself. But the second aspect of that is that it definitely builds when you talk about as many of the sensitive subjects as I do, because everything I do is for my children. And, whether it comes to talking about being a guy with an eating disorder and body dysmorphia, whether it comes to talking about how I'm a survivor of sexual assault and domestic violence, whether it comes to my ADHD or language processing disorder, whatever the case may be, I talk about so much serious stuff because I know I have to, that in those situations, I try to bring the humor because it's a release for me, knowing that I'm not the one that has to be on the spot in those situations. The problem is when you do it like that, there's an ignorance that goes to the host, and James is an exception because James knows how I operate. He knows where my heart is, so he's not going to necessarily take any offense to that. But if you look at the general population within those comments, I'm very well aware some are going to think, "Oh, who's this jackass?" And then others, there's going to be this underlying misconception. And the reason I bring this up is because you talk about healthcare, and I spent 10 years in healthcare as well. This is all part of why we generate these. It's so important to generate these mental health conversations, and things like this need to be brought to light on shows like James, because James is an icon of industry. Um, I joke with him all the time, but he also knows very clearly that a lot of the people out there would not be where they are without him. So th- that's where, and I'm going to pay James one last piece of respect. Um, my best friend and mentor, Future Kane, always told me about putting people in positions of opportunity and utilizing your platform for the greater good. James is is a showcase for how you do that. and how you put people in positions of opportunity and utilize your platform for the greater good. Because many times I joke about him being on the air more than Law and Order. Every single time he's adding
He
value.
is. I don't even want to know how many things have I said you've made a T-shirt out of, a cup out of, or a hat out of. I just haven't seen them come out yet.
This came
Just
out today.
saying.
So I
Just
appreciate that.
saying.
So let me bring this back again. So I'm going to bring this plane in right here.
Okay, Tyrese.
Back to this conversation. I appreciate
Yeah.
everyone in the comments. I see a lot of folks that are watching again over on the various platforms. I question and I wonder. So again, I thank you for those flowers, man. But the idea is again to put the community first and to have those awkward conversations and to be comfortable having those awkward conversations, because I think that's how we heal, and
Yeah.
that's how we get better, right? So a lot of times I purposely and consciously will throw some salt on an open wound. I know what I want to say. I kind of assume almost as well what Florence, what Dan, or what Kevin or someone is going to say about that response, but to actually have the dialogue. That's what's missing from society, I think, today. Because back to these social networks, we're spending so much time, 30, 60, 90 seconds, swiping back and forth between entertainment, funny videos. And we're not having that 46-minute long, we've been live 46-minute long conversation and dialogue about what really makes a Dan Roth tick, what makes a Florence Donald tick. So my
I'll
value
challenge you
back.
on that.
Okay, so hold on, let me say. So my value back to society is actually having a platform. Platform is whatever size it is. That doesn't matter. But my value, I think, to society is having a platform where we can be comfortable talking about DEI, talking about mental awareness, talking about anything that really matters, and then finding a way to go out there, turn the lights off, and then go out there and go do something. So don't just talk about it. Don't just be keyboard cowboys, but actually find a way within your sphere of influence to go out there and try to make a dent in the universe, like this quote I have right literally in front of me says. So that's me. That's my soapbox. Go ahead, Dan.
But okay, so, and I'm basically talking people through my process right now because I already started, so why not? So my first thought right in this moment is I don't want to overtake Florence in this conversation because I know I just went on a diatribe. What I will say to counter your point, and I agree, you're creating a platform where people could talk about this, but there's a lot we don't know. Most of the work that I do is not meant to be had within the conversation. So when I'm going out professionally speaking about telling people to get off their lazy ally ass and become an accomplice or co-conspirator of change, and I'm using that term loosely, please don't quote me on that. I don't want to get killed by Whitey. The thing with it is I don't necessarily always expect the conversation to happen in that moment, because when we talk about meeting people where they are, we don't know where they are. So if I'm speaking at an event and I'm talking about institutional racism, or if I'm quoting Dr. Joy DeGruy, or if I'm talking about CRT, there's a lot that people may not feel comfortable with thinking you're talking about in that moment. But if we take those clips, if we have these lives where it's just you and I, and then we're the three of us, and then we cut those clips and we use Opus Pro, and we chop them up and we create
Insider joke right there, folks. Insider joke there,
and we create that micro content.
Mm-hmm.
That could further along the conversation. So we don't know how far our reach is actually going. And I don't want to say that's a risk, but that's part of being a creator and being open and free with how we discuss things. I'm the first to say I'll never know what my ultimate reach will be while I'm alive. I won't. But that's okay with me.
But that's okay, though. That's okay.
And that is okay.
As long as you get up every single day and do something. Who knows what that is? As long as you get up every day and try to move and get 1% better, 10% better, whatever the case may be. I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up.
Oh, yeah, dude, come on.
Either. One day I'll figure it out.
That's the fun part of it.
Just real quick, Cheryl, just responding to your comment. I have severe social anxiety, and that comes with being a professional speaker. like, I agree that it's great to meet in person, but I also believe that if we make the assumption that we're only going to further ourselves in that area by being in person, then that sort of takes away from the human connection that can be made versus any medium. Because I'll tell you straight up, it's a lot harder for me as an individual with social anxiety uh, to make connection when I'm in person, because those anxiety and that stressors are so much at the forefront. But if I can make it back here, and then I could bridge that to eventually be in person instead of having it be sort of a blind date, then that reinforces that connection. And that's ultimately what I see.
This show has turned way better than I thought it was. I got the whole run of show here. I'm just gonna record this separately after I get back from the
No, but
gym
come
and
on. What do
cutting
you
the
want to talk
grass.
about?
No, cause that's all.
What are you trying
I
to talk
had
about?
stuff to talk about, like um, Spotify launching AI DJ, the whole tech layoff scene, things like that. Because I went through that not too long ago as well. I just wanted to have that
So let's
conversation
talk about the tech layoff
because,
because
man, because we was getting this. Okay.
let's talk about that
Had to
because
rebrand the show. Let me go put another hat on. Take off the technologist hat and put on like the perspectives and focus hat because
I have to stretch to see how my daughter is doing real quick.
go do your thing,
no
man.
worries.
Go thing.
So and I say that because as the generative AI world turns, to borrow an old phrase, the more we're going to see a shift in the technology space.
Yeah.
It's no different than when we went from agrarian to manufacturing. No different than when um, the quote unquote the internet boom or whatever it was called. I forget right now. Um, every big shift will also shift where business and jobs and skills are in society. And while we don't like it,
Mm.
we individually are still responsible for ourselves. And when we notice our cheese moving, everybody loves that book, Who Moved My Cheese? Well, pay attention to the cheese moving and move. Don't be him and haw. Get to scurrying and go reskill, upskill, whatever kind of skill you want to call it,
Where's my copy of that book? Hold on. Go ahead. Keep talking.
and prepare for the day when it's going to shift on you because it is. Someone told me a long time ago, and I tell you, a hard head is makes a soft behind, as my grandmother used to tell me. If your name ain't on the building, you need to be worried.
Your name. Say that. Say that again for the people in the back of the room.
If your name is not on the building, you need to be worried. And I did not understand that for a very long time, far longer than I should have, to be, as the saying goes, transparent. However, it may take a few turns to prime the pump to get it going. It's worth it. It's so worth it.
Love that. Love that.
And so all of these layoffs in the tech space, it's not just there. It's a lot of places. And tech companies are shifting. They're trying to figure out what they're going to do with this stuff too.
Hey, Dan, I'm gonna take you off the screen because you don't have my coffee up. I'm the one who told Ecam about fourth wall, and I'm the one. So okay, let me stop. I'm sorry. Okay,
Don't mess with him.
okay. Shouts out to them. They got their coffee, but
Well, I didn't,
James
I
Hicks
didn't,
got his coffee.
listen.
I didn't get sent a bag of that.
No, yeah,
So
my stuff's not free. I'm not just giving stuff. Okay,
I
let me lock
I
you in.
paid for this.
Okay, I sold out of mine, so I may bring it back. See,
Okay, so then you can't say anything, James Hicks. Go be quiet.
okay,
Be quiet.
By the
No,
way,
don't do
shouts
that.
out to, hey, he can't wait. Let me get it on the screen. Okay, we love them, and yeah,
yeah,
Uh,
Florence, just so you know, I was part of those tech layoffs.
I was too. So I think all of us are, because I mean, Florence, we're not going to put everybody's business out in the street, but we are all part of, or have been part of, enterprise
so
IT in this country.
I can say so just to kind of give those who are with us a little sense. I've been in the IT space more than 40 years. I've been in healthcare,
Mm,
specifically in IT, more than 30 years.
wow.
And I've have gone into work one day and found out my job is gone. I've had to walk people through that same thing. Hello, beautiful. So when I speak, I'm not speaking from I read something,
Hmm.
and I'm speaking from a lived experience.
Yeah.
That's what I speak from, not from an academic paper or anything. I speak from my lived experience,
So
what I've gone through and walked through in my life.
yeah, I mean, I've been through it. I know Dan's been through it, and appreciate your story as well. I guess the reason I had it for a topic of discussion today was I guess I want folks to understand that this is within that industry, within this enterprise technology industry, it's very fickle. There really is no longer that sense of the golden watch, the long term pension. It's
Nope.
none of that. The majority of folks are 3, 5, maybe 10 years at the same organization, and they are then starting to chase dollars and cents. They're starting to chase stock options. They're moving within the industry. So you have to have a very thick skin and be very calloused and be very confident in your abilities and what you provide and what you offer an organization to be an enterprise tech. The money's great. Money is great, but there is that chance that you either can be replaced, downsized, eliminated, restructured, all of those things. And it's just not, everyone's not built for it. So when I see this type of story, then folks start saying, is it because of AI coming in and taking people's jobs? Not necessarily, but it is folks who are aware of AI. It is folks who are aware of what's coming down the pipe. So in essence, keeping your skills fresh, making sure that you're still valuable to an organization, that you're not still out there messing around in COBOL when we're over in C++, to make sure that
What
you're
did I
not
say to you
still
a week or so
right.
ago? I said I was coding in Fortran,
Right. There you
and people
go.
don't even know what that is.
Make sure you're not over there messing around in coax cables and Lantastic and Novell when today we're over here. Man, I really flashed back on that one.
You really flash back on that one.
Wow.
You really flash back.
Stay current, folks. That's the whole idea. Stay current. That's what's happening, and it's very different in public versus private sector. It's very different private sector enterprise IT versus even any other organization, because again, it's so. I guess the best word I can say is fickle. It just really is. And Dan, you've seen this as well, and you weren't necessarily in a engineering space, right, within enterprise IT, but you have been at enterprise IT organizations and other
Well, I
work groups.
recruited it. I recruited them, and I was in charge of all DEI related activity within the physical store division of Amazon. Um, and something you touched on, you better be confident with your skills. Well, I was connected to Andy Jassy, one of my best friends to this day, is the former director of DEI corporate communications from Amazon. I spoke at the first ever Amazon Prime Summit about my role as an abolitionist.
Wow.
Yet on January, and that was after I got let go, they called me back to ask me to speak at that summit because
Oh, you're a
one of
better
my
man than I am.
Oh, well, at that time, I was still looking to say, I want to get back in
Mm-hmm.
because when I was let go, there was a lot of stuff from the DEI and the humanity work front. By the way, for those that aren't familiar, I don't use the term DEI anymore. I focus on humanity work. Um, there's a lot of idiosyncrasies to why that differential occurs. probably not for right now. But so I was in that space. I was doing the work. When all the other recruiters were dead doing nothing, sitting there twiddling their thumbs, taking trainings. And by the way, that's actually what happened. I was as busy as I've ever been building out resources, working with HBCUs, working with ERGs, and the thunderbolt struck at 7:18 in the morning on January 18th, 2023. It didn't matter. And here's something that people don't talk about. In high level FANG or in high level tech, it used to be a sense where if you got let go and they started hiring, you'd be the first one back. We called a boomerang candidate.
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you, point of fact, they don't care about boomerang anymore.
Yeah.
I got told by a senior level recruiter, I said, "Hey, are y'all hiring any boomerangs?" And they said the hiring managers don't care if they're boomerang or not. And that part of that is that when you have so many people that are let go, regardless of whether you're a program manager, regardless of whether you're a software developer, and let's just be real for a second, a lot of software developers during the pandemic should not have been in FANG. A lot of underdeveloped SDEs and otherwise got hired because of the sheer competition of it. And that's not taking away from anybody's skill, but I don't want to call it the big leagues because I feel like that would be disrespectful, but you see where I'm going with that. Just shouldn't have been there. So now you have, like, I just got turned down for a role with Kickstarter for People Business Partner. Why I got turned down? I had a great interview. 3,500 applicants.
Yeah.
3,500. So, there's a lot to it. By the way, I want to touch on something Florence said, because I know you work in healthcare, and I had a long time in healthcare. One of the biggest things I was telling people is don't specifically focus on high tech. Healthcare has a ton of technical positions within it. Whether it comes to retention, they're building programs, applications, whatever the case may be. It's the same thing. And when you talk about like Novartis and you talk about AbbVie and some of these larger companies, they have just as much money, if not more, than some of the bigger tech companies. So you could still get a very high level compensation in a industry that's traditionally underappreciated when it comes to tech.
Let me ask about this, because I was where I was going to go before I got blessed with having two phenomenal co-hosts today, was to have that story and then to tell folks I wanted to have that conversation about being on top of your skills, continue to be valuable for an organization. And where I've been telling a couple of folks to go is go to LinkedIn, right? LinkedIn has turned really into the place where the resume is still important. The cover letter is, depending on your industry, is know how to write a cover letter. Let me backtrack and say that. Know how to write a proper
And please
cover letter.
please don't ask ChatGPT to write your resume and send it out.
That's
Please,
exactly
please
yeah,
don't.
right.
Let me just say this. I would read that and it would go in the circular file.
Go ahead.
I
There it
promise
is.
you. It will go
Cover
in the circular file. It's the same thing that used to happen prior to. If you send a resume out or profile or CV out and there are typos in it, it goes in the circular file. If you misspell a technology, it goes in the circular file. If your dates don't line up, it goes in the circular file. From a person who's hired a lot of folks over the years in my career, and a person who every time I go to a new engagement, I have to share my profile, my CV to the client.
There it is. What you got, Mr. Ross?
And I'm in a company and I have to share my profile or my CV every single time I'm going to a new engagement.
Recognizing Florence is dead on. Let me just start with that.
You're coming in hot, brother. Hold on, let me turn it down. You're coming in hot.
So here's what I have to say. In a world where we have fair and inclusive hiring practices, cover letters will no longer be part of the expectation. There is inherent and visible bias that comes into play every time you ask somebody to write a cover letter. whether it's from a mental health perspective and you're talking about additional stress, or whether you're talking about the fact that how many times can you expect somebody to try to parlay what, or try to convince you of what makes them stand out, or the fact to them that you're asking them to do work off the clock
Mm.
for a job. I am one of the biggest proponents out there of eliminating the cover letter
Okay.
from
Interesting.
from the job process. Now, that being said,
So
smaller
is
companies
that
where
industry
it's looked at,
specific? Is that industry specific though?
it's not. So two parts of this. One is that smaller, I in a fair and inclusive society, cover letters are gone, period, regardless of industry. However, and this is the caveat, which may or may not make me sound hypocritical, if if it's a small organization and people are going to actually read those cover letters, then maybe I see the validity. But I mean, Florence, this may be the right question to ask you. How many times has a cover letter ever made the difference in a hiring process?
It absolutely makes a difference.
Okay.
I'm going to tell you from the perspective of a person who's been in tech and hiring people. I can have an architect who can build a phenomenal architectural diagram.
Mm.
They can they can put a building together like nobody's building. They can put a colo together like nobody's business. But if I have to have that person write a report and give it to a client and they can't put a sentence together, I can't use them.
Wow.
I can't I can't use them. And so one of the things that I've done is whether it's a cover letter or something else, I require seeing something the person has written that was intended for others, not their family, but for business. Because I need to know, A, and it may not be the reason they don't come on board, but now I know, do I need to put this person in a program of some sort to help them be able to convey a message in writing? Please, oh please, if you're out there listening, how many emails have you gotten and people didn't know proper English? It still matters. It still matters. Everything cannot be a emoji and a shorthand. In business, when you're not talking a couple of $100.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're
I'm
talking way more. It matters.
talking about grown folks' money now. I mean, yeah.
Grown folk money. You talking grown folk money? If you cannot put a sentence together and a paragraph together and know what a verb and a noun is, you lost. You're not going to get anywhere.
I'll interject with
So
that
from
because I'm sorry. Go
so
ahead. No, I'll let you go
Go
because
ahead. I'm
you was
sorry,
going.
Dan. So from that perspective, Dan, it does matter. It's not the cover letter convincing me that the person has um, a subject matter expertise.
Yeah.
It's from the perspective, can the person communicate effectively?
That's it right there. That's where I was going. Right, because literally last week, and I'm not going to put his business out there, but I was working with my brother-in-law, and he's applying for some positions, and a cover letter was required piece of documentation, and he had to actually spell out and say again the value that he would bring to this organization. And yeah, on a resume, you can have all your bullet points. You can say, I've been here for X number of years. I've been here for X number of years. I've reached goal. I've reached quote and all that stuff. But can you articulate that in a document that either a hiring manager or a senior member on the team that you're looking to go to, can you articulate what it is that you've got written down? Can you get in front of the room before you even get in front of the room? Can you actually be very clear in your messaging? And it wasn't an IT organization that he was applying for. So that world, that realm, it mattered being able to have that conversation, not just verbal, but written as well. And we were locked in on making sure verbiage was right, tense was right, uh, beginning, middle, end. All of that stuff was locked in, so he could be on that short stack. Because again, there's going to be, like Dan, I think you were saying, many people apply for all these same positions. What's going to make you stand out? I can communicate, not just
Yeah.
verbally, but from a written perspective,
I,
and that matters. So
so this is difficult, and I feel like I have to break the fifth wall down in order to make the point that I'm going to make, because I understand and believe in everything that you're both saying. The fifth wall that I have to break down is that most high tech companies do not hire from applications. They source out, and most of the time,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely.
and most of the time, it's people that are already in jobs that are at the same scale. So, for instance, an Amazon is not going to look at a 10-person startup because the scale is just much differently. So we don't, or I say we, I don't know why I say we anymore. So there's not that uh, there's not that requirement.
mm,
Usually, what happens in high level tech, and here's another fifth wall breaker: there's no writing requirement at Amazon unless things have changed until you're at like L6, so semi-director level, and then you have to provide a writing sample, and that's only for certain positions.
wow,
That's not for SDEs.
wow,
That's maybe for SDMs or program managers, and it's supplemental to the loop. So the loop is the final stage for Amazon. So it would be part of the findings that people would have, that the panel would have to read during the loop. Where I have difficulty, Florence, is is the cover letter the right place to look for those? Because I still maintain um, that writing cover letters has a tremendous amount of inherent bias
mm,
when it comes to it, and causes a tremendous amount of unnecessary grief and stress for a job seeker. And it may not be the one job that they're applying for that you work at the company, but when you talk about the repetition of 10, 20, 30 jobs, and they're constantly having to do this, that's where it gets monotonous. But if you look at the application process in general, it's always monotonous. You go and you apply for a job, the first thing they're gonna do is ask you for your application. The ATS scans it, fills it in,
mm.
then they go in and they ask you to fill in your job history again. Well, I just gave you my damn resume. What do I need to fill this in for? So that you could have an easier time going through the system? Like, look, I
So,
understand that.
So Dan,
Go ahead.
I'm gonna tell you that I know, James know, and probably the majority of the people who are watching know. It's all about your network.
Uh-huh.
It's
Man,
all about your network. If you haven't built a network, you're not going to know about those roles. You're not going to have somebody who says, "Oh yeah, I know James Hicks. I know his capabilities. I know what value. I know what he can bring to the business. I know that he has a business mindset. I know that I can put him in front of name a name and he'll kill it." No cover letter, no resume on earth is going to do that for you. It just is not going to happen.
is this the place to start? This is where I wanted to. Is this the place to start?
So,
In today's world, is this the place to where HR
and
folks
it,
are going to look? And I'd love to hear
let me,
the conversation.
yeah, let me just tell you, the person who reached out to me she reached out to me a couple of weeks ago. We had our call this week. Even though we had worked together, we were both faculty. We have a consulting academy, and I'm one of the faculty members in that consulting academy, teaching uh, early career consultants the art of being a consultant. So we had worked together, and she comes from the talent acquisition space, and I'm nowhere near that. So let me just be very clear. I can't speak to it. Don't do it. I don't do talent acquisition. But the reason she reached out to me was because of what she sees me talking about and coming to my YouTube channel, because I post up there frequently when I'm going live, and seeing me. I had a 2 weeks ago, the president of an organization reached out to me because James Hicks, you're gonna laugh. She came and watched the show that you were on for Iron Sharpens Iron.
Okay.
And this woman's self nominated herself as my professional mentor. She didn't ask that she was my mentor.
Hmm.
Organization presidents in many huge organizations. And she said, "I'm very impressed. I was impressed when I met you. Now I see what you're doing." And I'm a baby YouTuber. I don't know anything. Part of the reason I came on here, James, today was I noticed a lot of plosives, and I wanted you to tell me if it's still happening with my mic because I may be changing this mic as well. Um, so I'm a baby YouTube video creator, don't know anything. As I told someone, I think I may be rocking on my knees at this point in the process. But
No,
yet and still,
Like that.
she was impressed. I was like, I don't know why, because I don't know what I'm doing.
yeah, you do. Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna interrupt because, yeah, you do. You're a very eloquent speaker. That means you know
Well,
what you're
I've been
doing.
doing public speaking for 30 years or more.
Yeah. So
So
why are
that
you saying that
that
you don't
is
know what you're
that
doing?
part's easy. I don't know video and stuff. That's what I mean by that.
Okay, and I understand
All
that,
this stuff.
but neither did I until I had taught myself. Um. All right, I'm gonna make a quick point because I have to make lunch for the
Go
girls.
take care of daddy. I mean, go take care of daddy duty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So here's
Yeah, go take care of beautiful baby girls.
yeah. I've got a few minutes, but here's what I want to say, Florence. Like I agree with you. It's all about your network. But here's the thing. I've got 43,000 followers on LinkedIn. I've got a reach of about 700 million people. I am also sitting here at 15 months unemployed. And that's after coming from arguably the top company in the world, doing some of the greatest work of my career. Um, now, in the last two jobs that I've had interviews for, the first one was for Kickstarter. By the way, I recommend Kickstarter to anyone, anywhere. I love what they're doing. But I found them, and I had a friend that was in charge of the VP of people. So I asked her to make the introduction. She made the introduction. The VP of people said to me, the interviewer, "Hey, you need to meet with him." Met, found out that there was 3,500 applicants, and I didn't make it, but I still had a great experience. But the the other one, and this is important when we talk about humanity work, and it was extremely humbling to me. Is I had a friend, his name is Jonathan Harbison, and he reached out to me, senior recruiter. He's like, "Hey Dan, I have this DEI manager role that I think you're the first person I thought of." And the reason this is so important, I'm elaborating on this for what it may be obvious to the two of you, is when you have a society in which 70% of DEI executives are white, and then you have an African American recruiter saying to me, "Dan, I believe that you are the best fit for the role," that's a huge honor. And that's also a huge responsibility to me.
Mhm.
So I wanted to mention that. Jen, I'll be right there. Um, the other thing I wanted to mention real quick before clearly I have to.
Don't get in trouble.
I'm not going to get in trouble.
Oh, you in trouble. Go.
He got
It
two
is.
little girls.
I know.
He gonna be in trouble his whole life.
Yeah.
And you don't
Your
even
whole
know.
life.
My daughter's first word was shiny. Her second word was shoes. I've been screwed since they were born.
First word was Louis. Second was baton. Oh my God.
And here's the thing: like James knows this. Neither my wife nor I had twins in our families. Like seriously, when my family found out that we were having twins, they didn't believe me. They just started laughing on the phone. My wife was like literally sitting in the middle of the hospital, and she took the phone. She's like, Marlene's my mom's name. Marlene, he's not joking. We're having twins. So, but yeah, so getting back to it, the entire networking thing, it's just, here's the point I wanted to make. A lot of people reach out for help, and I think there needs to be a harder discussion on what happens when people reach out, because when I lost my job, I had maybe 2,000 people that commented on the post. And a lot of people say, "Hey, I want to help. Let's talk." But what's happening there with 2,000 people? Not everybody's going to be able to help. So what's actually happening there? And this is a mental health perspective. So as a job seeker, when you're already sort of in desperation mode, when you're already going through this depression, whenever somebody says they could help, that's providing a bit of hope. But if that turns out to be a false initiative, then who's actually serving? A lot of people are offering to help, not even believing that they can, but because they feel like it's the right thing to do. And when you look at it that way, it's a very selfish maneuver. And I know it's not supposed to be said. I know this may be sacrilegious, but for me, if you can't help, shut the F up and sit out the way. Like, I appreciate your love and respect, but I'd rather have your support in actually getting connected or finding somebody. 10 good leads is better than 250 good onlookers.
Bad ones. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that's
And
the
I
last.
agree with you, but and yeah, I agree with you again, but it goes back to your network. And
Yep.
when I say your network, I mean these are people that you can pick up the phone and talk to.
That's a lot more difficult.
You can communicate with them. So my network, when I say my network, I am not talking about people that I can't reach out to. I am talking about people I can call them, I can email them. They know who I am, they know my name, they know something about me that's positive. And a lot of them know stuff to me about me
Yeah.
that's not so positive.
But all that
But
stuff they could find on your dating profile.
they'd have
Yeah.
to find one of those.
So
So
Dan,
how
here's
about that?
this. Here's this.
Don't do that.
Yeah, but I'm gonna keep everyone out of trouble. Dan, this is what I want to do, man. I want to be cognizant of your time. But you just
Yeah.
mentioned that it was difficult to share that piece. I want you to go back and kind of marinate on that a little bit. I would love to have you come back and maybe we dive specifically into what is inhibiting you from having those conversations. I don't want you to go into it right now. No, I don't want you to go into it right now. I want to be like a crack dealer. I want to just give people a little bit, and then they come back later for me.
Yes, I understand. I know
Okay.
how you operate, but I'm asking for clarity because I talk a lot. So you're going to have to be a little bit more specific on what you want me to think about.
I'll hit you offline, man. I'll hit you offline.
You can't remember. You can't remember. That's the funny part about it.
No, I listen. I got unlimited tape here, brother. I can always rewind. But the deal is, honestly, I want to be cognizant of your time, and
Yeah.
you got family that's happening. But I would
And
love
you got littles who need your attention.
Yeah, I would just because again, I think that conversation would matter to not just you, but to other folks in similar situations, and we can again have that dialogue and have that conversation and help folks get over that hump and get over that hurdle. So I'm asking
absolutely
for some help from you on that.
So
Cool.
Last thing I want to say is, y'all, if you're watching, check out James Hicks' store, hicksnewsmedia.com. Buy some of his coffee whenever it comes back into circulation. It comes with a free dime bag, and we'll be all good.
Not anymore. Cost of living here in California.
Okay, I need to get off here because I can't be associated with that.
You know what I'm saying?
I'm
God,
just messing around.
I told you we on LinkedIn. I'm gonna lose all kind of brand. Bye, Dan.
Bye.
Appreciate you, Dan. Later, buddy.
No, you don't.
So, what happened? No.
Oh my goodness.
Like Kevin said, we over here moving the needle. We over here.
Yeah, that moved it somewhere.
Nah,
I'm not sure where, and I don't want to be where it moved it to.
gang of folks watching, but that is what it is. Listen, that was good dialogue. That was good discussion. And again, my run of show was completely blown up, but it went in a good direction. I want to probably have you come back again. Well, you already know you're part of the squad, so you got the keys to the front door. You can come anytime. But I want to go deep into digital creator tools for managing business.
Oh yes, so needed, needed.
So not just going out there fly by night, not just having every single thing written on post-it notes, but actually having processes in place for what does a media kit look like? What does my LinkedIn profile, LinkedIn bio, having everything, having the aesthetics set up, having my communication with brands, having my communication with colleagues and potential investors, all of that, the financial piece.
How about this? Having communication with your audience in your community, which is where your clients are going to come from, either themselves directly or their network.
There we go. So that's where I want to have a conversation next. And I got this page in particular because beacons.ai is the truth. They are a platform based here in Northern California in Silicon Valley that I've been using for a while. They're offering some new features within the platform that, again, I think folks need to pay attention to. Taking cycles out of the workflow, right? Just making it a
Mhm.
little bit more seamless in terms of how removing doubt, removing no, right? Removing the part that folks will say I can't do it. Well, no, you can't. Yeah, you can, because Beacons is actually integrating a lot of the W-2s, the media kits, the link in bio, email marketing. We started off the show talking about that. There was no reason why you can't get out there and do the thing. So I want to bring up beacons.ai and talk specifically about them and walk not just you, but walk other folks through. I mean, even the pages that I have on beacons.ai, how I've got them set up, things of that. So
Yeah.
maybe next week,
You know,
maybe even
James,
before
one
then,
of the one
maybe
of
even
the
before
things
then.
that I would say to the creators, to as you're considering all of these tools, be cognizant of what it is you want to convey and how you want to convey it. Wonderful tools. I have a Beacons account as well.
Hmm.
I haven't built it the way I wanna build it because you can't chase every rabbit
Mm-hmm.
to your
Mm-hmm.
so be strategic in what makes sense for you where you are, but know that as you employ each of these technologies, there's intentionality that has to happen to set them up so that they work for you and not against you. There's some thinking that has to happen. I know, James, you were in the stream last night. You know, those keys that I went over,
Mm-hmm.
there's some thinking that has to happen on all of our parts. You asked me earlier about my LinkedIn. Yes, I have creator mode turned on. Yes, I'm going to set up the organization page, but I'm being specific and intentional about what I want it to say,
Yeah.
how I want it to look, who I want it to reach before I tell anyone it's there.
Yeah. That's good.
Because then it's working for me and it's not just something else I've taken on to feel overwhelmed.
It's a marathon out
So
here.
that's the conversation that I think that would be useful. I hope it would be useful.
There you go. See you Saturday, 10:30 a.m. Pacific time. Next week. Next week. That's what we gonna get into. Or we may do something somewhere else. Who knows? We may do, because I like the 101 conversations, but then the 201, the 301, where we get even more granular, and then folks start opening up their own pages, and we start building it for them instead of just talking about it. We kind of be about it. So
Yeah,
let's
because there's a
think
lot
about
to
that.
learn. There's a lot to learn and how to link these technologies together. The woman that I talked about, I didn't say it was a woman, but the woman that I talked about that I met with this week, she said it was so easy to get on your calendar and I didn't have to look for anything and I had exactly what I needed. And the only thing I said to her is go to this link and you don't have to do anything else and I'll show up when you show up and we'll be ready to go.
Listen, you must be saying something that makes sense, because you got Dr. Donald Oliver in the building. And look, he don't just show up for nothing. Listen, when he don't just show up and chime in. So appreciate you, sir. He says intentional about
Thank
using
you.
these tools to work for us. That part. Appreciate you, sir. Yeah, that's a good man right there.
Yes,
I better
yes,
sit. I better sit up and
absolutely.
act right. I better act. Got
Sit up straight.
we got some winners in the building. So
So, and I'll just say, thanks to you and my core four, because I had to start from zero.
mm,
I had done large corporate working in that space and other things that I've done and been a part of, but in this creator space, I was starting from zero. And it's been intentional to build an infrastructure
mm,
underneath this that works for me and not against me. Because like you and everyone else, Dan, Kevin, Dr. Oliver, all of us, we have 1,440 minutes in a day. None of us get any more or any less. The difference is how we use them. Or, as I like to say, invest them. That's the difference.
Ladies and gentlemen, the doors of the church are now open.
Stop.
Bring you,
Behave yourself.
Bring ye tithes and ye offerings. I'm gonna mess
I
around.
appreciate you, sir. I appreciate
I
all
appreciate
that you're
you.
doing to help me
Hey,
to go on this journey. I really genuinely, you know this because I talked to you offline, but I really appreciate all that you're doing to help me in this journey. Because I'm a student. I'm a student.
we all are. We all are. And with that, I appreciate you. Appreciate everyone as well. Dr. Oliver says, I hear you. Shirley Peace has got a role. Kevin Cox in the building doing the thing. Ladies and gentlemen, that's Florence Donald right there. We had Dan Roth coming here, heckling from the back of the room, but still bringing great value. Every Saturday, 10:30 a.m. Pacific time. I may have to run a show. I may have something to talk about, but as you saw, the conversation will pivot as necessary, as needed. Because the conversation that happened today between the three of us was timely, relevant news of the day. Right. Again, I could have talked about, I'm looking at it right now, I could have talked about Spotify launching their AI DJ. I could have talked about the McDonald's outage. Right. Even though I don't mess around with McDonald's, but from a.
Oh, please don't. You're trying to destroy your digestive
No,
system.
but I know those were the kind of some of the things I wanted to talk about. But we talked about the tech layoffs, talked about the legislation about TikTok and things like that. So we are all students. Keep learning always. Y'all be good to yourself. Be back next time. Tell someone. If you like what you heard, saw, tell somebody. If you didn't like it, tell me, let me know so we can get better. All right? Florence, be good.
Be good.